if anybody has questions, want to talk, or
Somebody's got a question.
don't be shy.
I'm an activist, and it's very hard to get big groups of people downtown, or what kind of activism? I was hoping you'd tell us something about a revolution.
I'd like to think that I just did, but
I got here late, I'm sorry.
The question, that's a common question. Thank you for coming. I could have done the Q&A where someone asks you about what we should do, and I'd like to turn that around and say we really need to ask ourselves that question. If we are willing to see past what the corporate media is telling us, and first of all recognize the whole liberal media myth and realize that the media is as liberal or as conservative as the corporations that own it, and they have a vested interest in what they tell us or don't tell us. So if we're willing to think for ourselves and rediscover the subversive pleasure of thinking for ourselves, you begin to see the world in a different way, and then some things become clearer than they've ever been before. And those questions that you ask, what should I do, you might be able to just answer them yourself. And it doesn't always necessarily have to start with getting a big group of people. Sometimes a small group of committed people is where it starts. And things tend to take on a life of their own. There was a movie I saw about a theoretical trial of war crimes on Henry Kissinger. And someone in the movie, and I still can't remember his name, said, every revolution seems inevitable until it starts to happen. Excuse me, seems impossible until it starts to happen, and then it seems inevitable. So there has to be some faith that you're going to do what you can do, find like-minded people, and join movements from there, but recognizing that a lot of the tactics that are accepted now, like last weekend with the these tactics are obviously old, and if they were doing anything, they would have done them a long time ago. So we need some more new blood and creativity and activism. Gentleman in the back?
Yeah, thanks for the talk. I was just curious about what you think about compromise. Like politics, after all, and legislation is about compromise and building consensus. So when is compromise a sellout, and when is compromise essential? So you take the healthcare, right? On the one hand, there is a lot of things in the healthcare which are pretty bad. On the other hand, under reform, to bring in all these new people into insurance, you know, is something noteworthy. So the question is, when is a political deal acceptable or not?
Well, just on the healthcare, we're not bringing anyone in. It's now going to be mandated that you have to come in, spend 9.5% of your household income. And the reason why most people don't have healthcare now is not because they don't feel like having healthcare. They can't afford healthcare. So if you mandate it, they suddenly can't. They can't just suddenly afford it. And you're guaranteeing the corporations a captive audience. Because where are they buying the healthcare from? There is no public option. They have to buy it from the corporation. So they're not bringing anyone in voluntarily, this happy-go-lucky thing. What they're doing is forcing people and criminalizing those who choose not to have it. So that's an important correction. But compromise is important everywhere in terms of activism, because let's say I'm a vegan. If I chose to not work with any activists who ate meat, that would be pretty foolish. You know, there's more important core stuff that we could work together. In the bigger picture, like you're talking about, Democrat, Republic, it's not even compromise. It's two wings of the same party, and they seem to be they seem to not be able to see past the next fiscal quarter. And the question I would have to anyone who says political compromise is a step in the right direction is, how much time do you think we have? It's already 80% of the trees are gone. So when do we get angry? 86%? 91%? When all the trees are gone, then we say, now I'm going to step up, and I'm not going to wait for some overpaid congressman who's collecting all his money from a lobbyist. I'm going to stop waiting for this person to create change. I'm going to create it myself. So when it comes that type of compromise, I have no patience for.
A tiny follow-up, which is, I grew up in Europe, right, in Italy. So one of the things that always surprises me about the United States is that you only have two political parties.
One political party.
Yeah, sorry, okay, one political party. So the question is, what is stopping the activism from kind of, you know, making small parties? I'll give you an example. Like in Italy, there's a Radical Party, which in the 1980s it's a very small party, but they did a lot on the divorce, on abortion, on a bunch of civil rights issues. And while their numbers were not a lot, in the political spectrum, they managed to do massive changes. So what is stopping?
Well, it's a different system, right? Because you could have one party could get a few seats,
right.
And here it's winner take all. So
right.
that's two. but also the corporate propaganda here is on a level beyond any other country could ever dream of. And if you want to run for president under the Green Party, under some extreme right wing, extreme left, whatever it might be, you're not even allowed to debate, because a corporation that runs the debates only allows the Democrats and the Republicans to debate. So that the game is fixed in that sense. The propaganda is so powerful in this country. There was a famous scholar in the 20th century who said that the most important developments of the 20th century were the growth and spread of democracy, the development of the growth and spread of corporate power, and the development of corporate power to protect corporate propaganda to protect corporations from democracy. And those pretty much dead on. We are so programmed in this country not to realize the strength that we have. And we should be leading by example. And meanwhile, you look at a country like Bolivia, if they do something in that country that people don't like, they shut it down. In this country, you have candlelight vigil and go back on a weekend when nobody has to work. Matt?
I was just gonna ask a question about, say there's a lot of hunger in the world, right? In various countries in the world. Is it fair to sort of say, to those people in the countries, people living along in the country, say that, factory farms, things like that, that's bad for them to feed their people? I mean, like, obviously mass consumptions of food are needed, mass quantities of animals and land is needed for that, which may seem to some of us here as being sort of irresponsible to the environment, but we need to feed the people. So, and I'm sure there's a way to do it that's a very responsible way, but what do you think about, do you think that our being privileged as we are as Americans is sort of, we are able to say those things because, like, and maybe we should, we're able to say, like, we don't want to do this in this certain way, we don't want to have that.
Absolutely.
But there are real human lives that are at stake that could benefit.
We have I'll talk to activists, American activists, and sometimes they'll say, I am so burning out on activism, I need to take a little break. Now, if you're an activist in Haiti, there's no breaks to be taken. Your life is under threat 24 hours a day, 365. They don't have the luxury. So privilege does shape our perceptions. But in indigenous cultures and third world countries, factory farming didn't exist. It exists because Western culture imposed it upon them. If anything, if we flipped the script and we looked at how small farms and agriculture existed in the third world before the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, structural adjustment, till before the corporations started to take over, we probably could learn more from them. And, like, for example, the vast majority of corn, wheat, soy, etc., grown in this country and on this planet go to feed animals. There's no food shortage. It's who controls the food. There's actually no water. There's the same amount of water on planet Earth as there was 3 billion years ago. It's water, most of it is polluted, and who controls the water?